Most people think the past is behind us, neat and finished, packed away in boxes, tied up with string, labeled in careful handwriting. But the truth is simpler and stranger. The past is not behind us. It's around us, quietly. It sits in drawers. It hides between the pages of old books. It sleeps in envelopes, in albums that haven't been opened in years. And every now and then, it asks to be seen again. I've spent a long time keeping company with photographs. Not the perfect ones, the posed ones where everyone looks their best and nothing is out of place. I mean the photographs that survived real life, the ones with soft corners, the ones with fingerprints in the gloss, the ones that smell faintly of paper and time, the ones that were carried and handled and loved. A photograph is a small miracle when you really think about it. Light touches a face for a fraction of a second, and somehow that touch is kept. The world moves on, seasons turn, people grow older, streets change their names, and still, there it is. A moment that refuses to disappear completely. We live in an age where images are endless. We make them without thinking, 1,000 at a time. We keep them in places we can't quite point to, floating in the invisible cupboards of our devices. But in the early days, a photograph was a decision. You didn't waste one. You saved it for something that mattered. A wedding, a new baby, a uniform before a long journey, a family gathered in a yard they were proud of, a birthday with a cake that took all afternoon. Proof not of perfection, but of presence. And presence is what we miss most when people are gone. It isn't always the big things. It's the small details, the way someone held their hands, the tilt of a hat, the stubborn cowlick in a child's hair, the quiet confidence in a young man's eyes before life had a chance to argue with him. Time has a way of smoothing the sharp edges of our memories. It leaves us with feelings more than facts. That's why photographs matter. They don't let us rewrite everything. They remind us that our loved ones were not legends. They were real. They had tired days. They had chores. They had arguments and laughter and ordinary afternoons. They stood in the same sunlight we stand in now, just earlier. And that's the part I've always found comforting. A photograph is not a doorway you can walk through. You can't return, not truly. But it is a window you can lean toward, and sometimes that's enough. There's a kind of honesty in old photographs. They show us that life was never as polished as nostalgia pretends. Clothes were mended, hands were worn, faces carried their weather. People smiled when they could, and when they didn't. They still looked straight into the lens, like they were making a promise. Remember me as I was. If you ask me, that's what an archive really is. It isn't a museum of perfect things. It's a shelter for what would otherwise be forgotten. And forgetting is easier than we admit. We don't forget on purpose. We forget because we're busy surviving, because we're rushing from one obligation to the next, because the days stack up and the years pile on, and the mind, trying to be merciful, lets details fall away. But every so often we find an image again. Maybe it's a portrait tucked in a book, or a shoebox in the closet, or an old album that opens with a little crackle like it's waking up. And suddenly we're not alone in our own time anymore. We're standing beside those who came before us. When you look at an old photograph long enough, you start to notice something else. Most people are not trying to look important. They're trying to look steady, as if to say, we made it to this day, we're together, we're doing our best. There's wisdom in that, if you're willing to take it. Not every day needs to be extraordinary to be worth remembering. Not every life needs to be famous to be meaningful. A kitchen table can be sacred ground. A front porch can be a kingdom. A small victory, a safe return, a meal shared, a child lifted into the air can be the kind of moment that outlasts everything else. And here's a thought I've carried for years. The future will one day look at us the way we look at them. Our clothes will seem strange. Our habits will look quaint. The things we worry about will be half forgotten. But our faces, our ordinary faces, will still be precious to someone, because love turns people into history. So if you're listening to me, let this be your gentle instruction from an old archivist. Save what matters. Write the names on the back when you can. Tell the story while there's still someone alive who knows it. Ask questions. Listen to the answers twice. Keep the little details, because those are the first to go. And when an image fades, don't assume the moment is lost. Sometimes it just needs care. Sometimes it needs patience. Sometimes it needs a second chance. Time takes its share from all of us. That's the bargain.